Welcome to episode number 2 of the Retro Gaming Roundtable. And I want to introduce the other 2 members of the Retro Gaming Roundtable, and we'll start with Jason from Kinda Cool Productions. And Jason, kind of give us an idea of what we can find on your YouTube channel. And if you want to give a little bit of video game background, that's fine too. But I'm going to toss it over to you.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me on again. I had a great time last time and expect to have a great time this time as well. So I'm Jason from Kinda Cool Production. If you want to check out my channel, I'd say I mainly specialize in, I don't know, just like hardware modifications, things like that. You know, I'm into ODEs, which is optical drive emulation, things like that for, just those types of things. So I don't have a whole lot of stuff on my channel right now. I'm trying to add some more as we speak, but if you want to drop by and give me a shout out or put a comment out there, I'll be glad to reach out to you.
Awesome. Yeah. You might not have a whole lot of videos up, but they're quality videos. And yeah, absolutely.
I appreciate that, Joel. Thank you.
Oh yeah, man. Then we have Mark from the Dad Racer YouTube channel. Mark, kind of give us, what we can expect to find, what kind of content can we expect to find on your YouTube channel? And if you want to give a little bit of background,
Hi, everybody. Mark here from the Dad Racer Dungeon. And on my channel, we focus a lot on Nintendo, Super Nintendo. We do playthroughs. We do a couple of unboxings or pickup videos here and there that I like to showcase some things that we find locally. I like finding things at garage sales. And yeah, I like to join you guys. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Yeah. We had so much fun with our first video. We were thinking, man, we need to do this again, and I think it's really kind of cool because we have 3 different perspectives here. So when we're talking about what the topic that we're going to talk about today, I think we all kind of bring a different perspective to the table. So so what we're going to discuss today is we each brought 3 overlooked NES titles. And we're going to talk about them. And when we think about overlooked NES titles, they might be known to you, but we just don't hear about them a lot, and we don't think that they get enough credit. So there's some really good titles I think that you're going to find today, hopefully. So I think this is going to be a value to everybody watching it. And I think, if you guys are ready to start, we're going to throw it up to Jason here, have him start, and then he'll throw it to Mark. And then you throw it back to me and we'll go from there.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right.
So to start off with mine, I'm going to present Konami's Jackal. And so now when you think about all the great silver box titles that came out from Konami for the NES, you kind of have your tier 1 group, your Castlevanias, your Contras. I'd probably put Gradius in there. Then you kind of have this tier 2 group that doesn't get talked about as much. I'd put like Russian Attack in there, maybe Stinger. And I think this one's in there too. So Jackal's in there. And so And even though they might not be as great as like the Contras and Castlevanias, I do feel like at least this particular title has been really overlooked, and it's a really good game. Maybe not great, but really, really good. And to start with, it's a vehicular shoot 'em up or a shooter, but it's not like a automatic scrolling shooter like you would experience like Gradius or something like that. It's vertical, but you actually control the progression a little bit. So it's kind of unique in that sense. It kind of feels like an Iron Tank game if anybody ever played Iron Tank. But it's 2 players simultaneously, and that's always good for couch co-op. I always loved that when I was younger, and I still love it to this day, so it gets props for that. But it's an overall good game. Good sound effects, really good music. It's a Konami game, so you're going to get great music, and this one does not disappoint. There are some really great tracks in this game. And it's got 6 different stages. Each one has like a little boss level at the end, and just all around a really good game. I just think it's overlooked. It kind of lives in the shadow of Contra, I think. And it's not as great a game as Contra or even Super C or Castlevania, but really good. And we're here at the Poor Man's Retro Game Room. We like things on the cheap, don't we? Right?
That's right.
We pick this up from anywhere from about 12 to 17 bucks. Maybe even lower than that if you look creative on eBay. So really good deal. Ton of value there for 12 to 15, 17 bucks. So anyway, check it out, Jackal.
Awesome.
That's an excellent choice. One of the Konami killers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is a Konami code game too. You're right. Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, okay. I guess I'm up.
You are.
And let's see. Overlooked Nintendo games. I didn't want to bore you guys and talk about Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu for the 10th time. much as I love that game, it was time to, it's time to
Absolutely.
move on. And I thought we would discuss 3 games today that I've never talked about before on the show. And would you believe me if I told you you can buy all 3 of these games, I think, for about $20.
Awesome.
So we're going budget friendly. Not that that was a requirement, but
Cool.
that's what we're doing. So we'll go over my first pick. It is a pinball game. It's Rollerball.
All right.
One of my favorite pinball games on the system. And let's see, you have a play field that's 4 screens tall.
Mm-hmm.
You've got like the 3 main screens. You've got this upper bonus section. The multi-ball in the upper area, which starts from the upper area, is absolutely bananas. The music the whole time is excellent, doesn't get old. It's not one of these loops. It's not silent like the black box pinball. There's a 2-player mode that's a little bit like kiddie mode. My 5-year-old enjoys that, but at least, you know, it's
That's
something
cool.
to play alongside with her. So that's a lot of fun. And it's interesting. It's not like Pinball Quest where you've got different boards and tables and things like that. So I'd say that's a bit of a downside. Let's see what else. You can get it for $5-6,
That's awesome.
something like that. And yeah, that's my pick for a
That's a
pinball
good
game
pick,
that I
yeah.
don't think gets talked about a whole lot.
Yep, absolutely. And that is a genre that I really enjoy for some reason. Video pinball.
Yeah, ditto, same.
Yeah, man. It's just fun to kick back and you know, play a pinball game on your console. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Alien
sometimes you
Crush
just want
comes to mind, and yeah,
sometimes
Sounds
you
like a
just want
future
to
segment right there,
unwind.
maybe, right?
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, man, that's cool. Two very good picks, actually. All right, so I am up, and I'm going to go with a game, and I think that this is probably known. People have seen it, but you just don't hear about it a lot, and that's Faxanadu. And I should say Faxanadu because I think that's the proper way to pronounce it, but I always called it Faxanadu.
Yeah, same, ditto.
Did you? Yeah, absolutely. And that, you know, if you look at it, yeah, that's what I would call it, Faxanadu. But I remember when this game came out, I went and, you know, back in the day, I didn't have eBay to purchase my NES games off of, you know. And so your choice was kind of limited to the store that you were in and their game department, whatever they had. And, you know, I looked over some of the games and Faxanadu just stood out to me. And I'm like, man, let's try it. So got it home, and the first 20 minutes I played it, it was kind of like, you know, this is kind of cool. You know, it's all right. But then the more I played it, the more I liked it. And the more, if you give it time and you get through that first 20-30 minutes, it totally grabs you. Not the best action platformer, and I would say it's an adventure platforming game with role-playing elements. Now the one downside is the password system. A lot of Nintendo games had, you know, a password system back then, but it's not a bad password. It's, you know, it's easy to do. You go and you see the guru and he gives you your mantra and that's your password. But there's some excellent platforming. You can buy items to upgrade like your armor and your weapons, and you can cast magic, and enemies drop gold and things that can help bring your life back with like little loaves of bread and stuff. But it's a very, very good game, and it has a very unique color palette and art style. And yeah, I just don't hear about it enough, and I think it's an excellent game. So that's my pick, Faxanadu.
That was so
Nice.
close to being on my list, Joel. You know, can't believe how close that was to picking that one. So, and to answer your point about the pronunciation, I actually looked this up a while back. It's actually been pronounced officially by Nintendo both different ways.
Cool.
They've called it
There
Faxanadu
you go.
and Faxanadu. So you get to make your choice with that in mind, right? Which way you
I
want
thought
to
you were
call
going
it.
to say that there was a third way that it's actually
Yeah.
pronounced.
I know I
We've
was
all been
too.
wrong
It's
this whole
possible,
time.
yeah, because I know there was certain literature that they put always looked like I think it was like a preview video or something like that one time. They called it one, and then another one they called it another one. So
Huh.
that's
Well,
that's coming
cool.
from officially from
There you go.
Nintendo. So yeah, good choice. That's a great choice, Joel.
Thank you. All right. It's up to you,
All right,
Jason.
I'm up next. Okay, so here we go. We're at the poor man's retro game room, but this ain't a poor man's game. So,
That's
and I don't
right.
even own it. So you're gonna pretend like this EverDrive is that game because it actually is flash hit right now. But my next one up is gonna be Shadow of the Ninja.
Oh,
So
man.
if I were to tell you that there was a game out there that plays largely like Ninja Gaiden, but has elements of Sunsoft's Batman in it, as well as little sprinkles of Castlevania and a little bit of light sprinkling of Contra through it, you'd want to play that game, wouldn't you, right?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And chances are you probably haven't because a lot of people don't know about this game. It's one of those games that kind of came out in the 90s. I think that there was like a late 90 release. I think it was like a winter release for 90 on this. And so, by the time 90, 91 rolled around, people were, the interest in the NES was waning a little bit. People were moving on. I mean, the Genesis was out, the TurboGrafx was out. People weren't all Nintendo all the time anymore. So some really great titles came out during this period, and it'd be really easy to take a list like this and just fill it with those titles.
Yep.
But I think that's kind of cheating, so I didn't want to do that,
Yep.
But I did want to have one of these, and this game is a really good game. Shadow of the Ninja was made by a company called Natsume. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And they actually handled a lot of other games that they would actually develop for other people that would actually, put them out. I think they actually did Shatterhand, I believe, even though I think another company, I think Jellicoe, released Shatterhand, but Natsume worked on it. So they have this run of games, especially in that time period, they're really great. And this one's awesome. It's exactly like what I said. It's a really fast-paced game. Think Ninja Gaiden, but two players simultaneously against Coach.
That's really
Couch
cool.
Co-op was a big deal to me then. It is now today. I love that when they have that in there.
Mhm.
And it's one of those games where they've gotten so good at coding things. There's very limited slowdown and sprite flicker. It's just a very well-rounded feeling game, a good feeling playing game. It doesn't feel buggy. It feels very fast-paced. The weapons are cool. There's moments. There's like a weapon that you get. I don't know the name of this. It's like a sickle on a chain kind of type weapon. I want to call it a shuriken, but I don't think it's that. But anyway, you get that weapon sometimes, and it feels like you're Simon Belmont in like a Castlevania or Castlevania 2 or 3, where he's whipping the chain whip. So it feels like Castlevania when you have that weapon, but then when you switch to your sword, it feels like you're from Ninja Gaiden again. So really cool stuff. You mentioned the color palette for your game, Joel. This one, the color palette feels very much like Batman. If you guys, play Batman Sunsoft, you know that color palette's really kind of ingrained in that game, and it really leaves you with that type of impression. This game's that way too. And in fact, some of the enemies actually feel like they came out of the Batman game, the way they react, little like robot things that chase you. But anyway, it's just a solid game. I mean, and I have no nostalgia for this title. This was all discovered later, right? I did not know about this when I was a kid. It flew completely under my radar. But I would say if you gave me like a top 30 NES games, this makes it on there. And I'm one of those guys that I likes what I likes, and I usually like my nostalgia-driven stuff. And for this one to sneak up and be that good and get on my list of my top 30 of all-time NES games, pretty impressive stuff, right?
That's
Shadow
cool.
of the Ninja, it's not cheap. You probably for a loose cart, you're going to be looking at probably 80, 90, even maybe $100. I kind of shopped one, thinking about making this list, and I thought about pulling the trigger, but I didn't do it. Doesn't mean I don't want the game, but it's relatively pricey. So if you find another way to play it, that's fine too. But just find a way to play it. Shadow of the Ninja, my number 2.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I got to look into that. Good pick. Sounds like a good game. All right. Now for my second pick, we're going to go to the shooter genre with Twin Eagle. This game, couch co-op, you're in a helicopter. Nice mix of weapons and difficulty. Actually, first stage, I would say, is easy. There's 5 stages total.
Okay.
First stage easy, second stage medium, third stage very hard, fourth stage impossible, fifth stage more impossible. So it's not an easy game. It's fun because it's couch co-op. You can probably get through the game if you're both skilled. Otherwise, the difficulty, I think, ramps up a little bit too much. Once you get, into the third and fourth stage, it's just a little too much for me. You've got like 5 different weapon power-ups, 5 different weapons, and then within each of those weapons, I think you can upgrade them 2 or 3 times. There's like a nice spread shot. There's missiles that cut through everything. There's weapons that can fire forwards and backwards. So there's good variety there. And what else? Oh, so that's your B button. Your A button is your bomb. You want to collect these bombs. Certain enemies drop bombs. You want to collect them, and you don't want to die, because if you die, you lose everything that you've
Oh
collected.
man, yeah.
So that's a bit of a bummer. The thing that the bombs do is not only do they clear all the enemies, but they clear all the bullets flying all over the place, which at some point, once you get into these later stages, the bullets are all over the place. You're going to be finding yourself pressing the A button to clear the whole screen, because there's just so much crap all over the place. You know, all the bullets, all the enemies, it just like clears everything, and then you can breathe for about 6 seconds. But if you die, you lose all your bombs, and that's a bit of a letdown. But I think it's a good pick nonetheless. Doesn't get talked about. It's in the $10 range, I believe, like I said, relatively affordable. So yeah, Twin Eagle, check that out.
Awesome.
For the price, it's worth picking up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great pick. And that wasn't a requirement, but a lot of the games on my list, you can get for under 15 bucks. So that is kind of cool to point that out.
It's a
That's
good
great.
bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. And we don't, we didn't really want to limit ourselves to that though. So it's, it's kind of cool, but if they're cheap, then that's great.
I feel like I completely wrecked the curve by picking an $80 game now.
No.
No, I don't, because I don't want to limit it. I mean, there's a lot of people that aren't going to go out and buy that cartridge. They're going to be able to play that game a different way. So
Absolutely.
They're all the same price when they're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So my second pick, I love wrestling video games. And of course, pro wrestling was great on the Nintendo. But a game I don't hear enough about is Tecmo World Wrestling. I think it's the best wrestling game available for the NES. I do remember getting this and taking it home, and I might have cheated a little bit with my NES Max auto fire. But it's very cool because you can do different exercises in between bouts that build up your wrestler.
Mhm.
I mean, that adds like a little tiny bit of an RPG element to it, but it's just cool. You can kind of train your wrestler. And the other thing is, while you're wrestling, you have a commentator on the bottom portion of the screen, and they're calling the entire match. It's very cool, man. The presentation back in the day was something to behold, because it was like watching a TV broadcast, like wrestling in a TV broadcast, Very, very cool game, very fun. And the challenge level, in my opinion, it ramps up at just the right amount. Yeah, it's very, very cool, very fun. Of course, Tecmo, I mean, come on, their heyday was the NES, and
they were really just kind of dominating the sports market around that time for Nintendo.
Absolutely, yeah. And this is another polished title, like Tecmo Bowl, and yeah, absolutely.
That's a good pick, Joel. That's a really good pick.
Right, man.
Yeah, I agree. Great wrestling game.
Awesome.
All right, we're already up to our last one. Is it that quick?
That's fast.
Here we go. All right, for my last pick, this might be a little surprising. Bionic Commando. You may be thinking, wow, well, I've heard of that game. Well, sure you have, but let me give you some backstory here, because I think there's a big problem we need to correct here with the retro gaming community and their lack of embracing this title the way they should.
Yep.
So if you flash back to the past, I was a kid. This game, Bionic Commando, was known as being a tier 1 title. There was no doubt about it. It was talked about amongst the same ranks as Castlevanias and the Super Mario Brothers, and it was just a given that this was a great game. But for some reason, as time went on, it kind of fell off that list, and sometimes you'll see it on a top 50 of all time, and other times it's not even on the list at all. And I don't know what's going on. And I got a couple ideas about it. And we're going to talk about it. Let's talk about the problems that I think people may be having with this game that you're keeping them from treating it with the respect that I think it deserves. First of all, let's get this out of the way. You can't jump in this game. You cannot jump. So if you're coming in and expecting the play mechanics of almost every game out there in Nintendo and you want to jump, you can't jump. Just get over it. He's a Bionic Commando. He has a bionic arm. He can swing from it. He can basically kind of pull himself up and do those types of things. He can stun an enemy with it, but he cannot jump. Okay, so we got that out of the way. A lot of people don't like it. If you can figure out the mechanics of that, which I did pretty quickly as a kid, I thought it was really super refreshing to play this game. There's certain elements of strategy that take place where you have to pull yourself up on your arm to avoid things that are coming from the ground, and I think it was really well done, and I really liked it. So I don't consider that a problem, but I could see why people might think that. Number two, there's an overworld menu that kind of puts you in a little helicopter, and you figure out where you're going, and the map looks a little bit like an eye chart at first, and sadly, that's the first thing you're presented with when you fire up this game, and I think a lot of people might get a bad taste in their mouth initially, and it is very kludgy, it's very cumbersome, it's not the best part of the game, but once you figure out what it's trying to do, and you drop yourself into the levels, it's fast and furious. The action's great inside there. It feels a little bit like a Mega Man-ish type title in some parts, and maybe a little bit of Contra, but it's its own thing. It's its own thing. It was, like I said, refreshing change. Now we got to talk about the story here. So those are the reasons why people might not have liked it. Let's talk about the reasons why you should like it. First of all, graphics and sound on this game are good. The music, some of the later levels actually feel like outtakes from a Mega Man game. They're that good, And if you know what I like to think about Mega Man, if you saw the last video about all-time great soundtracks, I love it. So Bionic Commando having some element of that's great. Graphics are good. Gameplay and the story. Let's talk about the story. All right, so how do we put this? The bad guys in this story are those guys from like World War II. They were like from Germany, and they like that red and black flag a whole lot, and they like that guy that had the little mustache that did a lot of really bad things. Anyways, they're the baddies in this, and they're trying to bring that guy with the mustache back because they really like him a whole lot. And so you gotta stop that from happening. Oh, by the way, there's this huge device. And everything happens right in this game. Now, the ending of this game, I got to talk about this. I'm not going to spoil it, but it probably has one of the best ending montages in all of NES history. I don't know how they got this through the censors. Made a lot of parents upset. Don't cheat. Try to work through it, earn it, play the game, and see the ending and let it blow your mind if you already know what I'm talking about. But anyway, Bionic Commando. We got to fix this problem. People not giving the respect it deserves is my number one choice of overlooked titles on the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Absolutely.
I'm sold. I'm guilty. I'm guilty. I want to jump, Jason. No, I need to give it a second chance for sure.
Well, now we've made this video and we can fix the problem, right?
Yeah.
You've admitted you have the problem. That's the first step.
Right. Exactly. Step 2 is just put some time into it and getting over the
play Bionic Commando.
I'll say this too. Your Poor Man's Retro Game Room. This one, due to everything I described, you can still get this one pretty much for on the cheap. So, I mean, for the level of value of game this is, man, I mean, just do it. There's no excuse to not,
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, good pick. All right. Pick number 3 for me, I think.
Yes, sir.
Here it is. It's got a gold label. We can save.
Ooh.
It's a racing game. How many racing games do you think were on the NES? I have no idea, but I know there were a lot.
There were a lot of racers, but not a lot of great ones. So I'm expecting this one might be one. So let's see.
I like Excite Bike. I obviously like Rad Racer. But this is Al Unser Jr.'s Turbo Racing.
Nice.
So this is a bit different. This is like F1 racing. And there's a lot going on here. There's some depth. There's like 16 races. You go all around the world. To different countries for each race. You have a time trial to qualify. Then depending on how well you do in your qualifying round, that's where you place in your race. And there you are with all the other cars. Well, I think if you don't have to like win every race. You get a certain amount of points if you finish in the top like 6 places or something like that. And by the end of the game, if you have the most points, then you win, So it's not like the pressure is on necessarily every single race to win. That's kind of cool. You can customize the color of your car.
Sweet.
In between each race, or I should say at the beginning of the game, you're given a certain amount of like credits or points to allocate to different attributes of your car. I think there's 6 different attributes. They're like, the stuff that you would expect. Speed, acceleration, like speed, turbo, the speed of your pit crew,
cool.
Your cornering or maneuverability. Anyway, there's like 6 attributes, and you're given a certain amount of credits. So you split it up however you want, and then depending on how well you do, in the next race, then you get more credits than as you would otherwise. And you can slowly build your car up and get it better and better and better for each race. And sometimes they will give you, or I should say all the time, they'll give you kind of like a tip. Now on this track, it's better to allocate more to your turbo, or on this track, it's better to allocate more towards your handling. So you might want to tweak your attributes depending on what tips you get in between each race. Let me see what else. Like I already mentioned, you have the ability to save. That's cool. You don't have to deal with
Very cool.
clumsy passwords. Let's see, it's a data east game. Music is excellent in the game. You get your choice of music that you want to play for each race, sort of similar to Rad Racer in that regard. And there's a pit element to this. So you can't just run around the track. There might be 8 laps to a race or something like that. You can't just go and go and go without stopping. You actually have to, when you're out of your turbo, when you're out of getting low on gas, you actually have to, pit. And you might have to repair your car. You might just have to refuel. You got to kind of keep an eye on these things. And so that's something to just watch out for. But I like it because, well, there's just a lot of depth to it. And it's a racing game, which is not my favorite genre by any means, but it's something different. And I really appreciate it. It's another relatively inexpensive game, $5-6.
Sweet. Yeah, it's a great pick. Yeah, I'm kind of excited about that one. That's kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a surprising one. I was not expecting that. I'm interested in it though, because I was always really kind of averse to the games that had the celebrity endorsements, like the John Elway's quarterback. Games like that hurt me, hurt me bad. So I was always during the Nintendo age very careful not to pick those titles that had those on there.
Speaking of John Elway, he's on my wall, but
hey,
John
the poster's
Elway's
great. The game, not so
was
much.
Terrible. Yeah.
So that's an interesting pick, Mark. I mean, that's a shocker. I'm gonna have to look into that one. See what's
cool.
up.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, the way that I see it, my guess is that the reason it's $6 is because nobody wants the game, and it's probably a turnoff for a lot of people. But if you get into it, great. If not, you're out $6, something like that. So I kind of grew up with it. I've gained an appreciation for it, so that's why I thought I'd mention it.
That's cool.
Hey, that's
man.
why we're here, right? To shine a light on those types of games, right?
Absolutely. Well, I guess I'm at my last pick. So SNK had a very good run on the NES. We all know what they did with the Neo Geo and their arcade games, but I loved Baseball Stars, Crystallis, SNK, love it. And then there's one other SNK game, and I love my beat 'em ups, love them. And especially on the NES, to find a good beat 'em up that's cool, and that's P.O.W. So that's my last pick. Very cool game. I don't know how the prisoner, you play the prisoner and you're trying to escape and get on that chopper at the end of the game. I don't know how the prisoner obtained a stick of dynamite, but that's how the game starts.
Right. Yeah, that's your opening sort of mini cutscene, right?
Exactly. Blows the wall up, and then out he goes, man. And you know what's cool though? It's kind of a deep beat 'em up for the NES, because I mean, as far as moves, you can throw your fist backwards to smack a dude behind you. You've got your standard punch and kick, but you also can do a jump kick as well. And they did remove a few things, and I'm going to talk about the downside to P.O.W. unfortunately, is it's a one-player game. In the arcade, it was a 2-player game. You had 3 buttons, and I think there's a move that they took off, a headbutt that was in the arcade but didn't make the NES version. So that's the one downfall. It is a one-player game on the NES. And a beat 'em ups, you really do want to couch co-op, but I don't have as much couch co-op play as I used to, so it's cool, man. I'll sit down and play a single-player beat 'em up, and it's a good one. It's a very, very good one. I love the bosses, the graphics, the music is great, and another cheap game. I believe I used to rent this all the time, and I finally bought it, and I think I got it for $12 off of eBay. I think that's what I paid, and I got it in like 2 weeks ago. So. But I sure don't hear about it. P.O.W., if you guys can check it out, I highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, good
So
choice.
Joel, yeah, it's a great pick, but I'm with you on that 2-player thing, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I pumped so many quarters. Me and my buddies
Yep.
pumped so many quarters in the arcade, and we couldn't wait for it to get home, and couldn't realize how disappointed we were when we fired up for
Yeah.
the first time and realized it didn't have it. You know, what's the joke always that Double Dragon should be called Single Dragon on the NES? Well, I guess if you use that one in context here, it should be Prisoner of War instead of Prisoners of War. But
Absolutely.
you're right. It's a great port. It's just, it's tough to overlook the fact that they
Yeah.
stripped that out. I got to say that one of the more
is.
satisfying elements of that game is where you cold cock them with the butt of the
Yes.
gun when it runs out of bullets. I thought that was a really cool mechanic in that one that, you know,
Yeah.
that
And
hadn't
you
been
can-
seen prior to that. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So.
And
Yeah.
there's, you could do that. Actually, if you get up close, you can melee them with your rifle. Yeah, that's cool,
Yeah,
man.
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that, you know, and it's kind of like Final Fight on the SNES, you know, single
Yeah.
player. It's a great game. Great game. I give you that. But it, you know, that
Asterisk.
lack
Asterisk.
of kills
Asterisk.
go
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's missing something, right?
So yeah, absolutely. But it is, you know, if that's not a deal breaker, definitely check it out.
Yeah, because
So,
it's an excellent port. You know, if you
yeah,
ignore that,
it
it's an
is.
excellent port of the arcade game. So yeah,
Absolutely.
good pick, Joel. I think that one
Thank
does
you.
deserve
Yeah.
to definitely have
I-
some light shown on it. So
So,
sure.
and that's it kind of brings me up to this point. Jason, did you hear about any games? I think you said Al Unser Jr. Was there any games on either mine or Mark's list that kind of interest you that you know, maybe you haven't tried out yet? Or
yeah, definitely the racing title, the Al Unser racing title. That was a big surprise for me, you know, again, because, you know, not just because it's sponsored by a big name, but
Mhm.
you know, I thought I'd heard of most of the bigger racers. So this is, you know, this is interesting. I'm gonna go check it out. I think other than that, I think Joel, your list was pretty darn good, you know, and everybody's was good, right? But I
Everybody's
feel like
awesome.
there was a couple of titles there that, I mean, like I was this close to having Faxanadu on mine. I mean, it was just gonna be there. I mean,
Such a good
I
game.
had it up all the way to the last minute in my slot, you know, learning
Yep.
about it. And I was like, you know, learning about what I wanted to say about this
Yeah.
presentation. The last minute, it kind of got the bump, but yeah, great titles. I'm gonna check out the racing game for sure. You know, I wasn't huge into the pinball games, and I kind of got into those later. So I'm kind of interested in that title too. I'll have to
Yeah.
take a look at that one as well. I didn't really do a lot of them on the NES, but maybe it's time to look into that now. But other than that, I mean, there's some great stuff that's worth checking out. Some stuff I knew about, and some stuff I didn't. So I'm glad we did this. You know, it turned out
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
well.
Very cool.
For me, Shadow of the Ninja, I got to look into that one
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's hard to be disappointed with that game. If you know, I hear a lot of love. You know, when we discuss Batman, I hear a lot of people like Batman from Sunsoft.
Yep.
Yeah, there he goes. It's even running right there. I thought that was
Mhm.
pretty cool. But you know, if you like Ninja Guy and you like Batman,
Yep.
I mean, gosh, I mean, when I first encountered that game, I was like, "Where's this game been all my life?" So I'm
Yeah.
wanting to show some other folks that maybe that haven't heard of it as well to get out there and take a look at it, because I feel like there's no way you could dislike this game. It's really that good. So
Yeah.
Natsume, you said, right?
Natsumi.
Yeah.
Natsumi. Yeah.
yeah, that's who made this one. That they actually developed and released this one. So
One thing about those later titles, though, I mean, the cool thing is, I'm glad we didn't load our lists up with those, you know, because you don't want to do that. But they really had a good understanding of the limits of the NES and what they could and couldn't do and how to get around certain things. So a lot of those later titles are very polished titles on the NES.
yeah, you think about like the classic examples of those, like Little Samson, things like
Yeah.
that. You know, games that are just really knock it out of the
Shatterhand.
park from how well coded they are to how well they do all their, you know, that's like a kind of a platformer type game. Just
Yep.
and it's sad because a lot of people missed out on them because, like I said, they moved on to other things or they
Yep.
moved on to other
Yeah.
systems, and then it was right where Nintendo was hitting the peak of their powers. As well, you know, companies coding for Nintendo
Mhm.
Entertainment Systems were hitting the peak of their powers, and a lot of people just didn't play those games. You know, they were doing
Yep.
other things. So. And like you said, Joel, it would have been easy I could have picked 3 of those titles from that realm, but I didn't really think that's what we were going for
Yep.
here today. So I wanted to make sure I got one in there, and that's kind of what I did. But you could have easily
Yeah.
come in with 3 really great ones that
Oh,
maybe a lot
yeah.
of people hadn't heard of that, you know.
Well, I missed out on a lot of those later games because I was playing my Sega Genesis at that point. So
See what I mean? Yeah, somebody was playing something else, you know, and
Yeah.
during those days you didn't have investment money to go throw
Nope.
it in an older system. You had to throw it at your latest and
Yep.
greatest because that's what you did, you know.
when you know, I think I sold my NES to get my Sega Genesis, but yeah, and every time I've sold a console, honestly, I've regretted it. But The one game that really stood out to me was that Rollerball. Man, that's cool.
Oh,
Yeah, I got
that's
to
good to
check
hear.
that
Yeah.
out. And Shadow of the Ninja, of course, as well. I've never, experienced Shadow of the Ninja, so that's cool too, man. Yeah, excellent, man. Yeah, I think there was some good lists here. When you think about really high-profile games that aren't overlooked, do you have any games that come up to you that they're talked about, they're high-profile, a lot of people love them, you just couldn't get into them? Anything come to mind on those?
Man, yeah, I'm gonna throw one out there. I'm gonna probably make some people upset, but that's okay because
I will too. So
you got to do it sometimes, right? I'm gonna put
I know I
Dragon
will.
Warrior out there. It's just it wasn't for me. I know it was for a lot of people, and I know there was a lot of games in that series and really passionate fan base, but it's just not for me. It was a little too slow, and and I did the Final Fantasy. I thought Final Fantasy was pretty good, but Dragon Warrior just didn't do it for me. I'm gonna put that on my list of ones that I don't want to call it overrated, but maybe just
not for you.
just not for
Yeah.
me. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, so I probably will make some people mad too, but and I'm not saying that I'm never going to get into this series, but I just haven't so far. And you hear about it all the time. I know they're great games. They are. And Mega Man 2 is on a lot of people's lists of very, very, top games. But that is one series I've never gotten into. I've
taking
played...
a drink so I can spit take when I hear you say you've never played it. Yeah, Joel, my Dragon Warrior thing was bad, but yours is even worse, man.
I know, man.
You gotta go fix the problem.
I'm feeling pretty shamed about that, and but
I almost feel like we can't do another one of these
videos
videos until you fix that problem because you've got more important things to do. You've got to go play Mega Man 2.
I'm with Jason on that. I understand it because there's a lot of content to get into there.
Dragon Warrior.
Well, no, I mean.
Or you mean Mega Man?
Mega Man, yeah. Pop in Mega Man 2 and start there.
All right.
But I'm with Jason on this. You really got to fix that.
I got it.
I'll join the party and upset more people. I'm going to go with DuckTales. Capcom, it's an excellent game. The music's phenomenal. I know it's an excellent game. I tried time and time to get into it. Chippendales Rescue Rangers is more my speed. I love that game.
Okay.
And I think it has something to do with the fact that Chippendales Rescue Rangers is more linear, right? Doesn't DuckTales require some element of backtracking and...
Yeah, you've got some flexibility there for where you want to start and move to and go to, yeah.
Right. I mean, you would think the flexibility of being able to choose which level you go to next is a great thing. And, I love Mega Man. Mega Man's similar in that regard, right? You choose where you want to go, then you choose which character you want to go after next. I love that. But for me, DuckTales just haven't been ever able to get into that. And it's a shame because I know it's a good game. It just hasn't grabbed me.
Well, that's what we're talking about. We're not saying these games are bad games. We're just saying they're good games, but we just haven't got into them yet. And,
absolutely.
Or tried and just couldn't get into them. But yeah.
Mark, you brought up Chippendales. That actually is a good overlooked title as well. I think it lives in the shadow of DuckTales a little bit too much. I think it's a really good game. It's got 2 players simultaneously. We keep talking about how that's a big positive. It's got that going on. I loved that game, and I might say that I actually prefer it to DuckTales. I know a lot of people would hate that statement as well, but you're on something there with that.
I know I definitely do. I grew up with Chippendales Rescue Rangers, tried to get into DuckTales later on in life because I know, just the internet age. Everybody's talking about DuckTales. And I tried to get into it. I picked it up. I was excited. And it just didn't do it for me. I think I was just too used to DuckTales or too used to Chippendales Rescue Rangers. I don't know what I was expecting. The music's fantastic in both of them. I mean, I could just sit there and,
what did DuckTales had like that moon theme, the moon theme? It's like always like highly regarded as one of the best tracks of all time on the NES. It didn't show up on our list when we did it, but I know that a lot of people feel that it's one of the top tracks.
That's a good one. I could have brought it up, but the thing is, I'm just not attached to that game.
Yeah.
I'm fine with leaving it out. I think that's a good point. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure that if you guys like this and you want to see more of this, we're kind of discussing doing this on some type of regular basis. So if you guys want to see more of this, make sure and hit the like button. And please go over and check out Kind of Cool Productions YouTube channel. I'll have links to Kind of Cool Productions and Dad Racer's YouTube channel. Go and check them guys out. I try to catch everything you guys do, so I'm a big fan. And I could almost say that maybe your channels and mine, we're maybe hidden gems as well. Maybe overlooked. So
somebody else can do a segment on that.
yeah, exactly. So but excellent content, quality, polished videos. So very cool, man. All right,
well,
man.
I definitely appreciate all the kind words, Joel, and keep up the great work on your site too, because we love to watch it grow and become more popular. I think it deserves it. So good job.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
Appreciate it.
I like
Absolutely.
working with you guys and making videos. It's
Yeah, man. Yeah, this is a lot of fun, and we just after last video, like, man, we got to do this again. We got to do this again. Yeah. So yeah. All right. Well, I think I'm done. You guys got anything else at all, or you want to throw out there? I think we're good, man.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you guys have a safe and great rest of your day.